Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Namaskaram. Welcome to the part 2 lecture of Bhama Kalapam. In the last lecture, we have discussed about what is a Kalapa Prakriya, what are the technicalities and the meaning of Kalapam, how many Kalapams are there other than Bhama Kalapam, and how many librettos are there apart from the one that is authored by Siddhendra Yogi, what versions of Bhama Kalapam are being used by the Kuchipudi dancers today. Of course, we shall discuss about the innovations that are made in this lecture, along with the story plot and a little philosophical issues that are related to Bhama Kalapam. As we know that there should be a maximum of 2 or 3 characters in the plot of a Kalapam, the Bhama Kalapam has 3 characters. One, of course, the main role in this tradition, Satyabhama. Number 2, her husband, Bhagavan Sri Krishna. And number 3, Satyabhama's Sakhi or confidant, Madhavi. These are the only 3 characters which are there in Bhama Kalapam. Earlier days, when the Kuchipudi Bhagavatulu used to perform Bhama Kalapam, the character of Madhavi was performed by the Sutradhara, who used to do the Natuvangam also. And he is to be in the regular Sutradhari Vesham. But later on, as the time passed by, Madhavi Vesham is exclusively done by a dancer or an actor, and there is a separate Nattuvanar sitting in the orchestra side. But whatever it is, whether it is Sutradhari playing the Madhavi role or an exclusive actor doing the Madhavi role, there are at any point of time only 3 characters in the Bhama Kalapam. Krishna needs no introduction. He was a great king, and later on he was regarded as Vishnu's avatara, and his consort Satyabhama, who is the daughter of Satrajitu, a very rich king and a treasurer. Satyabhama, as her name suggests, is the lady of truth. She is very honest with her feelings and emotions. She doesn't try to hide her feelings and emotions. She says, yes, I am very beautiful. Yes, I am very rich. Yes, I am very happy that Krishna is all mine and he doesn't belong to anyone. She doesn't talk something outside and doesn't feel something inside. She is honest to the core. And Satyabhama, no doubt, was one of the favorite concerts of Bhagavan Sri Krishna also. And we have many mythological and Puranic narratives to show that. One thing that all of us have to understand from a very historical point of view of Kuchipudi, because that is the course all about, Krishna, for a longer period of time, never had a physical entry in the Bhama Kalapam. It was only a sort of a conversation between Satyabhama and Madhavi that happened, and many a times Krishna never had the actual physical presence coming onto the stage initially. But later on, even Krishna's Pravesham also happened, and Krishna comes only in the second half of Bhama Kalapam. The entirety of Bhama Kalapam we see completely the two characters of Satyabhama and Madhavi always having a lot of conversations. The entire story is through the conversations of Madhavi and Satyabhama, and more so the questions that Madhavi asks to Satyabhama. What is the name of the husband? How does he look like? Why is he not coming to your place? What happened to you? Why don't you give me that? Why don't you give me this? There are so many questions that Madhavi asks, and there are so many philosophical discourses that Satyabhama gives that I thought I was like this, but I think I made a mistake. I think I shouldn't have spoken like that. I think I shouldn't have done like that. I think I've done wrong with Krishna and he left me. Can he just come back? I realized my folly. Through the questions of Madhavi, she makes Satyabhama realize that the Jivatma has to be extremely humble to attain the Paramatma. The Jivatma shouldn't be proud about themselves, then the spiritual journey and attaining the Paramatma is very difficult. In Bhama Kalapam, Shringara is the Angirasa and Hasya is the Angarasa, which means Shringara is the main rasa and Hasya is the minor rasa. When you see the Ashtarasas of the Natya Shastra of Bharata, you see only 4 major rasas and 4 minor rasas. The 4 minor rasas, how do they eventually come? It is through the major rasas that the minor rasas evolve. And from the Shringara as a major rasa, evolves the Hasya as a minor rasa. So, Bhama Kalapam is a Shringara Pradhana Hasya Prabandham. It is a Shringara Pradhana Hasya Prabandham. That is Bhama Kalapam. One very interesting thing about Bhama Kalapam, which you rarely find in some of the or major of the texts, is that all the Ashtavidhanayika avasthas that a heroine has, which are 8 in number, as ascribed by Bharata in his Natya Shastra, you usually don't see a heroine of a story having all the 8 avasthas in a single plot. But in Bhama Kalapam, you have Satyabhama having all the 8 avasthas in a single plot. Now, this is very similar to the Gita Govindam of Jayadeva, where in the entirety of the text, Jayadeva exposes all the 8 Ashtavidhanayika avasthas in Radha. She is sometimes waiting for Krishna, she is sometimes pining for Krishna, sometimes she feels that she was cheated by Krishna, sometimes she just goes out in search of Krishna, sometimes she fights with Krishna, sometimes she is regretting because of the quarrel that she has with Krishna. All these shades are seen in Satyabhama. All the 8 Ashtavidhanayika avasthas are very, very properly seen in Bhama Kalapam at different levels, but of course not in the same order. So that is also one of the very major attraction of Bhama Kalapam. When an audience sits and starts watching Bhama Kalapam, he or she has a roller coaster journey of emotions that are being portrayed only by one character. And this is all happening in a single plot with whatever conversation is happening between Madhavi and Satyabhama, where Krishna comes only at the last stage. It's so interesting, and sometimes I just question myself as to how could a story like this be conceived in the first place? You have so many characters and so many emotions, yes, that's possible. But with just 2 characters and just a conversation, how can so much of a roller coaster of emotions be carried forward? That was possibly the reason why from the Kuchipudi Bhagavatalu to the Devadasis to the folk communities, everyone were interested to perform Bhama Kalapam and made their own librettos. It is like an ocean of possibilities to showcase your talent. It is more so like a fluidic poetic narrative. Bhama Kalapam is not a fixed text. Like, okay, it starts with stanza 1 and ends at stanza 10. No, it's not fixed. It's a fluidic poetic narrative, which means it's very dynamic. It's like always oozing out. The more you dig it, the more it is oozing. That alive is Bhama Kalapam as a literary text and as a performative genre. We see Satyabhama in an important role in the texts like Mahabharatam, Harivamsham, Vishnu Puranam, Padma Puranam, Telugu Bhagavatam by Bammera Potana, Gaudiya drama, Yakshaganam and Kalapam. You see Satyabhama in all these texts as the concert of Bhagavan Sri Krishna. No doubt about it. But the storyline that is conceived in the Bhama Kalapam is not from any of these texts. It is a fictional one. The story that Krishna left Satyabhama because he asked who is beautiful among both of them, and Satyabhama says, I am beautiful, and Madhavi asks, why, what happened, why did you do like that? Probably you can write a letter and I'll give that to Krishna. Now all this entire story you will not see in any of these texts. It's a pure fictional one that is conceived by Siddhendra Yogi. Now her name is Satyabhama, which means the Lady of Truth. I think we have discussed about this many a times in the last lecture and today also. She seems arrogant and egoistic on the outside, but her truthful nature, honesty and innocence are what that keep her true to herself. Because she is true to herself, because she is like a white paper, Krishna had no problem even touching her feet. And Krishna did this to none. He only does this to his pure and true bhaktas who don't showcase them as something else and are always true to themselves and true to Krishna. The love that Satyabhama has for Krishna, even Krishna knows, is absolutely pure and true. But the only thing that he wanted Satyabhama is to shed her pride and ego and be one with the Paramatma. With so many good qualities, you have just one or two bad things which are as hurdles to your spiritual journey, then having all the good things is of no use. It's like a drop of poison in a pot full of milk. So Krishna very purposefully wanted Satyabhama to herself get rid of the ego and pride. So it's a lot of philosophical spiritual journey that Satyabhama undergoes in the Bhama Kalapam. Outside it just looks like a love story of a husband and wife, where wife is separated from the husband and she's just physically and mentally pining to meet her husband. But on the outside it looks like a love story, but it's not actually a love story. It's a very philosophical upgradation of a Jivatma to understand what are the steps that are required to attain the Paramatma. Now of course Krishna is the Paramatma and Satyabhama is the Jivatma, or the representation of the Prakriti. And one very important thing that Siddhendra Yogi has done, which you see in this Bhama Kalapam, and my personal favorite part, is the character of Madhavi, which is a transgender. Madhavi is not a man and Madhavi is not a woman. She is a transgender. And when she is with Satyabhama, she is like Madhavi. She thinks like a woman, she acts like a woman, she talks like a woman, she responds like a woman, Madhavi. And when this same character is with Krishna, this character becomes Madhava. Now Madhava is also another name of Krishna. Now when Madhava is with Krishna, Madhava talks like a man, thinks like a man and acts like a man. So basically this character of Madhavi or Madhava is more philosophically like a Maya or an illusion where it is there but it is not there. It is present, but it is not present. Let's talk about some very, very fundamental biological facts. Now, I have both my father's DNA and my mother's DNA in me. Right? I am born with a biological combination of both my father and my mother. So all of us have the male characteristics and the female characteristics in us. But according to our gender, that certain characteristics become very predominant, and these are always undercurrent. Now, having them equally is the Ardhanari Tattvam, Ardhanarishwara. Exactly half is Shiva and exactly half is Parvati. The Ardhanarishwara Tattvam is represented through the character of Madhavi or Madhava, where it is exactly half a man and half a woman and doesn't belong to any gender, exactly like God. Does God have a gender? Does God have some very predominant gender qualities? No, we have different forms and shapes that we have genders attached to, but the actual Parabrahma Shakti that is making the universe move, is that a man or a woman? No, we cannot attach any gender to God. So basically, through this character of Madhavi and Madhava or Madhava as a transgender, Siddhendra Yogi wanted this character to be always along with Satyabhama to make her realize the Maya and the illusion that she is living in, make her shed her pride and ego, and make her help attain the Paramatma. If you observe the performance of Bhama Kalapam, Satyabhama understands her mistakes only through the questions that are posed by Madhavi. If Madhavi as a character was not there with Satyabhama, it would have become very difficult for Satyabhama to shed her ego and pride and understand the basic steps to attain spiritual enlightenment. So the character of Madhavi and Madhava is very interesting, very complicated when understood at a very closer view, and much more surprisingly, this is the actual character that does Hasya in the Kalapam. If Madhavi is not there, you also wouldn't have Hasya in the Kalapam. Madhavi is the actual character, does all the comedy that you see to make the audience light-hearted. So, Bhama Kalapam is such a beautiful text where the Maya and the illusion, a transgender character, is actually responsible for a spiritual enlightenment of a great queen who is a representation of the Prakriti to attain the Paramatma or the Purusha Bhagavan Sri Krishna, and is actually doing it through a comic role. There are so many layers to Bhama Kalapam. Every time I talk about Bhama Kalapam, every time I teach Bhama Kalapam, it's like an ocean. A new thought comes to me, a new idea comes to me, a new understanding comes to me. It's like reading Mahabharata. Every time you read Mahabharata, you learn something very new. Or rather, not just Mahabharata, any book per se. You read book second time, you learn something new which you didn't learn in the first reading. Bhama Kalapam is just like that. It's a multi-layered, spiritual and philosophical discourse that is sugar-coated with Shringara and Hasya, with just 3 characters and predominantly 2 characters, one being a woman and one being a transgender, always talking about the third character which is not there on the stage. That is the entire, the structure of Bhama Kalapam, and it has an uninterrupted 600 years of performance history. Bhama Kalapam is a philosophically oriented aesthetic expression called as Adhyatmika Alankara Shastra. Bhama Kalapam is undoubtedly an Adhyatmika Alankara Shastra. Natya Shastra mentions in chapter 7, in Shloka 67, there are several forms of pride, which means garva, alright, many of which are predominantly featured in the performative representations of Satyabhama. What are the prides that a character would have according to Natya Shastra? Vidya, Yavvana, Rupa, Aishwarya, Dhanagamat. These are the 5 kinds of prides that a human can have, which the Natya Shastra also expounds. And when you see the character of Satyabhama, she has all these prides. Everything put together in one nutshell is a bomb called Satyabhama. And the moment you see the entry of Satyabhama in the Bhama Kalapam, and just after some time you see how it ends, there is an entire shift of Satyabhama as to how she is looking at herself and the Paramatma. So that entire shift is so wonderful, splendid and superb. She is a Vidya Garvita because she has immense knowledge, she was well educated. She is a Yavvana Garvita because she is so proud of her youth and her beauty. Rupa Garvita, she is Aishwarya Garvita. She has so much of wealth with her because she is the daughter of Satrajittu, who has the Shamantakamani. Now Shamantakamani gives every day some hundreds and tens of gold every day, that Shamantakamani. So imagine the wealth that Satyabhama had with her. She is Aishwarya Garvita and she is Dhanagamata Garvita, acquisition of wealth and fame. She is so famed as the daughter of Satrajittu, the one who is so beautiful, the one who is the queen, the one who is the favorite consort of Krishna. She is proud about all these things. Many of us don't have so many things that are mentioned here, but still we are so proud. Imagine Satyabhama, how proud she would be when she had everything at her fingertips. And it just took Madhavi a few questions to make Satyabhama realize that this is not what actually it is. It is that you have to leave everything and go on a spiritual journey to realize the Paramatma and be one with the Paramatma. Now, what is the story plot of Bhama Kalapam? Satyabhama enters the stage where she introduces herself and calls Madhavi, who is her Ishta Sakhi or her confidant, and says, Satya Madhavi, I'm just missing my husband. Can you just go and find my husband? And then Madhavi says, okay, I'll do whatever you say because you're the queen, but can you say what is the name of your husband? Doesn't Madhavi know what is Satyabhama's husband name? She is the Ishtasakhi of Satyabhama and Krishna is the king of that country. Doesn't Madhavi know? Madhavi wants Satyabhama to come out of her shell. Okay, otherwise if you're so shy to tell the name, just draw a picture of how he looks like and makes a satire out of that. And she says, okay, fine, no problem. I understand what's your problem is. Do one thing, tell me what is the reason that your husband is not coming to your palace nowadays. It's been long time that I've seen him with you. And then Satyabhama tells that sometime in the past, when both of them were in their personal chamber, sitting on a Hamsatulika Talpam, on their personal royal bed, there is a mirror that is there in front of them, and Krishna sees the image of Satyabhama and himself and asks, Satya, who is beautiful, you or me? And Satyabhama says, it is only me who is beautiful, you are no, I am the most beautiful. Krishna gets upset and just leaves the palace. This is the only reason why Krishna is not coming. I think I shouldn't have done like that. Then Satyabhama says, you have done a very bad thing, but that's okay. We beautiful women, we say like that only, of course we are beautiful. There's a lot of comic activity that is happening with the character of Madhavi, but undercurrently she always pinches Satyabhama, telling that no, you have done something wrong. There is something wrong that is there in your attitude. But outside it's just comedy. And then Madhavi says, okay, no problem. You're telling so many things. I might forget when I go to meet Sri Krishna. So what you do, you write a letter and give it to me. I'll give that letter to him. And Satyabhama writes a very long letter where she just regrets for whatever she has done. And she just tells that, just come to me, just save me. All these kind of things. Satyabhama Lekha is extremely famous and beautiful to perform. And then Madhavi says, okay, I'll take this letter, but I want some gift to do this help to you. Satyabhama says, yeah, take whatever you want. I have so many saris I have, so many jewelry I have, whatever you want, you take. He says, no, saris and jewelry, I have so many. I don't want any of your saris and jewelries. Then Satyabhama asks, what do you want? Madhavi says, okay, I'll ask you something, but you shouldn't say no. Satyabhama says, no problem, ask, what do you want? You want money? Madhavi says, no, I don't want money also. You give me your nose ring. Satyabhama says, what are you asking? You are asking me a nose ring? No woman should give away her nose ring. Madhavi says, no, you give me that or I'll not take the letter. So, I'm just fundamentally telling you all these superficial plot that is there. In between, there are so much of conversations that are happening. So, Madhavi makes Satyabhama come down to a level where she is also ready to give her nose pin just to have Krishna with her. That is the amount of pining that Satyabhama has for Krishna. Satyabhama gives the nose ring. Madhavi takes that. And as Madhava goes to Krishna, gives the letter to Bhagavan, and the Bhagavan reads the letter and says, okay, no problem. My mission is completed, successful. I will come. So Satyabhama is ready in her chamber. She sees all the good signs that Krishna is coming. There is some clouds, some storms there, and two people are coming with milk pots, water pots, and Brahmins are coming reciting the Veda scriptures. There are some superstitious signs that are there, right? So she sees all that and she says, okay, I think my Krishna is coming. And finally the Bhagavan arrives. There is a Pravesha Daru for Krishna. And when he sees Satyabhama, she says, she's again angry on him. She's like, no, I don't want. Why did you take so much of time to come? And Krishna pleads her. No, Satyabhama, it's not like that. And she says, all these days you were with Rukmini. She again comes back to her. And then Krishna says, no, it's not like that. A lot of conversations happen between Krishna and Satyabhama. You don't see Madhavi coming in between all these conversations. These are all very private conversations that happen to a husband and wife that are shown very romantically, but with a lot of philosophical understanding. And then finally Satyabhama realizes her mistake and she says Sharanagati to Krishna, and finally both of them become one. So this is the entire plot of Bhama Kalapam. So superficially when you see it is just that it's a quarrel between a husband and wife and a third party trying to deal between both of them usually. A very Shringara Prabandha, a very regular quarrel that happens that you didn't come to me, you went there, this, that and all. Every wife that says to the husband. But it's a very philosophical discourse. I think all of you have to watch Bhama Kalapam, at least watch it from a very authentic sources and understand the nuances of the philosophy that is there behind. And it's a very beautiful experience to know the philosophy that Madhavi and Krishna are trying to teach Satyabhama, and the Maya and the illusion that Satyabhama is are removed in a very beautiful way. And no doubt Bhama Kalapam is such a successful dance drama production all these years, and everyone just pines to do the character of Satyabhama. But there are some older versions of Bhama Kalapam which have also the character of Rukmini, where at the end Rukmini tries to come and just pleads Satyabhama to reconcile the relationship between Satyabhama and Krishna, and Satyabhama starts a fight with Rukmini saying, who are you to come here in between? So there is something called a Savatula Kayyam that we see both in Parijata Paharanam and Bhama Kalapam, but these are a few versions which is not originally there in the one that is conceived by Siddhendra Yogi. And in some versions we also see Narada being a part of it. and a little elaborated version also. But usually you don't see Bhama Kalapam with so many characters, or rather not just Bhama Kalapam. The Kalapa Prakriya itself doesn't have so many characters. It is hardly 2 to 3. That's all. Maximum 3. Nothing more than 3 will be there in the Kalapa Prakriya. Parijata Aparanam is a completely different story, and Kalapa Prakriya is completely different. But usually the names are interchangeably used because of the popularity of Parijata. A lot of influence of Parijata Aparanam is also there because it's already popular, and people always try to use things which are already popular for their benefit and acceptance. Yes, it's a Shringara Prabandha, a Shringara Pradhana Hasya Prabandha. We have seen that, discussed that in the earlier lecture also. And the questions of Madhavi are very important, very smartly, neatly conceived, so that the right questions are asked. It's always about the right questions. Right questions lead to right answers is what all of us believe in, right? Madhavi is both a man and a woman, and she becomes a woman when she is interacting with Satyabhama, and she becomes a man when she is interacting with Krishna. So it's more like a reflection of Satyabhama that is seen in Madhavi, and a reflection of Krishna that is seen through the character of Madhavi. All right. And earlier Bhama Kalapam was presented almost for 9 nights. That has come down to 5 nights. Over a period of time, that has come down to 3 nights. And then it has come down to 5 hours. And now almost it is 2.5 to 3 hours. So the reduction of the presentational time of Bhama Kalapam has reduced very much. Because nowadays the audience don't come all the 9 nights to watch a performance, and even 5 hours and 3 hours also is becoming very difficult. The attention span is also becoming very difficult. And Vempadi Chinnasatyam Master Garu has made a lot of innovations in Bhama Kalapam, wherein when he brought it forward to the cosmopolitan audience, which say the cosmopolitan audience is a combination of audience whose regional language is not Telugu. So they are from different regional languages. So what did Master Garu do is, lot of dialogues that are there which are originally in Telugu, if a lot of dialogues are spoken in Telugu, the cosmopolitan audience will not understand it basically. So what did Master Garu do was, he's cut all the dialogues. All right, and kept a lot of dancing to whatever has to be represented, so that the audience will understand as to what is happening in it. Right, at the end of the day, if you don't understand what you are watching, what is the point of presenting it? The entire point of presenting it, it becomes nullified when the audience don't understand it. So a lot of vachanam or dialogues were removed consciously, purposefully, because this Bhama Kalapam has to be showcased to the entire world where Telugu is not understood, but the philosophy that Bhama Kalapam is teaching has to be reached to the audience. That is the reason why a lot of innovations, and not just the dialogues, even the presentational style also, a lot of innovations Master Garu has done. And I have personally done a lot of research on the innovations that Master Garu has done. A few of my articles exclusively on the innovations of Bhama Kalapam have been also published, and my entire thesis was on Bhama Kalapam and Dvaita Siddhanta. So possibly in some other course I will discuss about all these things in very detail. So as of now, this is all about the Bhama Kalapam, its story plot, and the beauty of being a Shringara Pradhana Hasya Prabandham. Alright, I hope you really started loving Satyabhama and Bhama Kalapam like I do. And until I see you in the next lecture, Namaskaram.